Recording in progress. Okay, it's got the ... So that makes me think that we're ready to go. Okay. All right. Well, welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. I'm Ava Rose Lynch, and I am the host. And this week we've got Alan Miller, and with a few years and even more projects under his belt, this guest has conquered the art of writing songs that will pull at your heartstrings. Based in LA, he is taking the indie pop world by storm, one song at a time. Welcome, Alan.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Quite the intro. I love that.
I do my best. I do my best. Got to use that old senior year creative writing course. Put it to good, you know?
Wow. I need to steal that and use that.
You're welcome to it. All right. So why don't you tell me just kind of where your artist journey kind of all began? Like, what was it that kind of made you decide, oh, this is something that I kind of want to do and kind of make happen for myself?
It's interesting. I've always been a writer. Like I've always found a lot of identity in being a writer. In school, I was my favorite class was English because we got to write essays and I was also always a musician. Starting in like second grade, I started taking piano lessons. I was taking music theory lessons, which I was obsessed with. I thought it was super interesting. And then by the time I got to high school, I was in like a concert choir and a show choir, so doing both pop and classical music. And in the pop group, I would end up playing piano and singing like solos and stuff. So I just kind of naturally had the space to explore being a performer in a very like safe way. Um, and I had like my mom was super supportive and she was like always at, I mean, we would have multiple shows and she would be at every single one in the front row. Like she was like super uh just like very, very supportive of that whole journey. And when I went to college, I decided that I wanted to study music business. I didn't know what I wanted to do with it yet. I was kind of scared of the creative side, and I was just like, I'm going to focus on the business side. And then my school like killed that program after my freshman year.
Oh,
So,
wow.
because I wasn't actually in it, I had decided to join too late. I decided to go to UT when it was too late to join the music school. So I was in like undergraduate studies and I was going to like transfer in on audition and like do that starting my sophomore year. But it was my sophomore year where they canceled the program. And so all the only options were classical. And I was like, no, I'm not getting a degree in opera. Like that's not me. So I was like, I already have friends here. What else is interesting to me at the school? I really don't want to uproot myself. And I don't know anywhere else in Texas that I would want to go. So I was like, I really like UT. I'm gonna stay here. So I transferred to radio, television, film. So like the film department. And I kind of went in thinking, well, I'll focus on sound classes and then use that to like pivot into music again and like whatever. I just need a degree, like whatever it is. But when I started taking those classes, I realized like, no, film is actually like really special to me. And like, I was really enjoyed the writing classes, specifically the like screenwriting classes. And so for a couple of years there, I was gung ho going to move to LA and become a TV writer, like because of taking those classes. And I had a professor who was like so special to me and so kind and wonderful and really made me fall in love with screenwriting. And so yeah, so I moved to LA when I graduated in 2018, and I was working in the mailroom at WME, which is a major talent agency. It's kind of the like ground level for anyone who wants to work in entertainment, regardless if you want to be like a development executive, if you want to be an agent, if you want to be a manager, if you want to be like a writer, like basically any like businessy job you want to have, like you start in the mailroom. So I did. I started in the mailroom. And my plan was to work there for a year and then to get on a TV show as like a showrunner's assistant and then work my way up and then get staffed on that show. That's kind of the goal for everyone who wants to be a writer.
Mhm.
So it didn't work out that way. I ended up going to a production company and being an assistant there in TV. So we were developing, but it was different. It wasn't writing. It was like pitching shows, like developing shows and pitching them before they became a show.
Mhm.
So it was interesting, but at that time, that was when the pandemic happened. And I just had a moment where I didn't care about TV nearly as much anymore. Like I still like enjoyed watching it, but I wasn't excited about new shows coming out. I was excited about new artists I was discovering. I was excited about music that was coming out. I was excited about folklore. I was excited about Punisher, like, you know, and like discovering new artists all the time on TikTok too. And so then when I got laid off in June of last year, because my company just dissolved, like went under.
Mhm.
I was like unemployed for that summer, and then I was temping in film still because that was the thing that made sense because it was my experience. But I was also applying and really trying to get a music job because I was like, I want to learn the music business now. I've learned the film and TV business. I decided that wasn't really like the route for me, and I
Mhm.
have always been a musician. I just took a roundabout way of getting here. So I want to now learn all I can about music. And so that's what I'm doing now in my current job, which I love my company and my boss is amazing and like very supportive of my creative stuff too. But as much as I love recording and putting music out, I ultimately love writing more. And I ultimately would love to write not just for me, but for other people. And I love co-writing. I love like the bond that you form when you like write a song with someone and like get
Yeah.
the amount of vulnerability that has to happen. It's just really like I love connecting with people in general. And to have the special way of doing it is so cool to me because not everybody can do it. So the goal right now is to build kind of like I guess a repertoire of songs that I can send out and like be like, here's like the stuff I can do if you want to work together. Rather than making it as an artist, because like as cool as it would be to have a song blow up on TikTok and get like a recording deal, and like I'm not saying if that happened I would say no to it, definitely not, but but it also comes with a lot of social media anxiety and branding and being perfect all the time, and it's all just like I worry enough about that already just as a normal person in 2022, you know, living in LA. So it's like
Oh, absolutely.
I would hate for that to become like a necessary part of my job and something that determines like my success. And also just touring all year. I'm kind of like, I mean, I'm not a homebody. I wouldn't say like I like to spend a lot of time at home, but I like to have a home base. Like it would be a lot for me to be traveling all year. I think some people are built for it, but a lot of the times it's just like really intense and taxing on people. So, yeah. So for those reasons, I feel like the journey has led me to this idea of being like a professional songwriter first. And then I would love to, once I build a name for myself and, you know, I'm making a living that way, to put out my own music, you know, just with lower stakes, because it's like not what I'm going to be like living on. You know what I mean? Like I still want to do that creative stuff for myself, but I don't want it to be the main thing. So, but right now it's still really fun to like put out a name song and to take photos for the album cover and to
absolutely.
Like I produce, like it's such a fun process. It's the promoting that wears on me.
I totally agree, and I'm in the business of branding and artists and all that, and I get it 100%. Like you said, like touring, not for everybody. That's why you get people like Nick D, who's doing the like music thing now and is like the face of independent artists, but I don't know that he ever plans on going on tour or anything like that. Like he's just making songs like twice a month and all this other stuff. But no, I'm right there with you. Like I don't think that being an artist necessarily has to mean that you're striving to be a household name or striving to be in the place where you're touring. It can genuinely be you're content with putting out music when you put it out and having that attached to your name and having those like little opportunities to kind of just do that creatively for yourself.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think that the goal of writing for other people and writing with other people is awesome. I'm a huge advocate for the whole human connection thing. And but at the same time, like still doing it like somewhat to your own create like, just in your own space is that in itself is what makes an artist, if you ask me.
Mm.
So it's interesting. I didn't know you started in film. So that was okay. That was a whole story that led into the story. Um,
Yeah, I have like a lot of friends that were genuinely surprised that I sang at all, or like was
okay.
into music at all. And it's so funny to me because I in high school and college was like obnoxiously plugged in to
Hmm.
music. Like I was like that was my whole thing. My whole
Hmm.
personality was like being in show choir and like all of my friends and everything. Um and so it's funny now that like when I moved to LA, it was like, oh, I'm a TV writer and like, you know, or I mean, to some people, I was like, I wanted to be an agent or I wanted to be a,
Hmm.
executive because like you don't like lead with I want to be a writer because then you won't get a like assistant job.
Yeah.
um, so, but for the people, even the people that I trusted and knew that I wanted to be like a writer, they were like, like when I put out my first song in 2020, they were like, what? Like this is really good. What's going on? I didn't
It
know.
catches
Like,
some people by storm.
yeah. Funny too how like you never know when you embark on something like that, you have an idea of who's going to be like your biggest supporters, and a lot of times you're wrong. A lot of times some of the people that you think would like be obsessed with your music or like would be a super big advocate of it like are kind of quiet about it, and then other people come out of the woodwork and are like super supportive, and you're like, oh, I haven't heard from you in like a year, and you're being so nice about this, and like that makes me feel so good. um and it's just interesting, like the way it branches out to people in your lives in different ways. And
Hmm.
it's a lot to do with like the algorithm too, it's like depending on who sees the post about the new song, or like
Right.
that's why you have to like bug everyone on your story all the time. You're like, keep
Yeah.
streaming, but because you can't count on everyone seeing the post because like
Yeah.
uh,
With how everything is anymore, it's not about who you follow, it's about who the algorithm says that you'll reach.
exactly, but yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I mean it's you never know who the music's going to resonate really with either. And so it's really cool to see that you can kind of form that bond purely off of something that you like put together and it can reach people outside of like your circle and people that you know. Um is there something that like in particular you find yourself like writing about most? Like is there something that you find like often inspires the work that you kind of put together or is it just kind of you never know?
I think it's always reflecting what is bothering me at the time or what is on my mind at the time. I'm a person who's very insistent on pinpointing what's not working and trying really hard to fix it and like always working on myself kind of
Mhm.
relentless. Like, that's kind of like my new song Better Off is largely about that. It's like just deciding that you're gonna get better, deciding like almost out of spite that you're gonna get better. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of longing. It's a lot. I mean, I think in my personal love life, it's been crickets. There's not had a lot of, experiences that have been positive with guys. And so it's like um I write a lot about crushes and about like, what I would want to say to someone but can't, or like, that unrequited love idea. And but I try not to make it so specific that you can only relate to it if that's you. Like I try to make it like if you broke up with someone, you can still relate to this, or if you just really miss someone, like it'll resonate with you. Like it doesn't have to be, oh, I haven't dated in like 3 years or whatever.
I mean, when I heard Better Off, I thought it was a breakup song. So there you go.
Exactly. No, I never dated that person. So
I mean,
yeah, I would say those are themes that I tend to focus on, and then just like, the way I usually work is I have like I'm ruminating on something, maybe not even in the context of a song, maybe even just like thinking through a problem or like something going on in my life, and then I have an idea for like a motif for a song that like is related to that. So then once I have that kind of like bones and framework for it, and I've been sitting there ruminating on it for a while, then it kind of pieces together once I have the like and the angle that I'm gonna use. And that's where the creativity and the like craftsmanship comes into it, where you're like, every song can't just be like saying exactly how you feel verbatim. Like, it ends up being the same song over and over again. So you have to find like creative ways to say the same things. So that's kind of how my process is, but that's how I would say that's like how that's what I focus on the most.
It's kind of just a creative outlet, it's you kind of give yourself the opportunity to tell your own stories in a way that isn't direct, and just music, it's a form of self-expression. So
totally,
that all makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so I think the next thing that I kind of want to ask is, if you were to kind of show someone one song of yours that kind of like you only had one song and one song only to show them to kind of represent who you are as an artist, do you have a song that you would pick for that?
I mean, right now I would say it's Better Off. I think Better Off is the most me I've ever sounded. But if you had asked me that a few months ago, I would have said Billboards. I have a song called Billboards that is this kind of like a synth pop spaghetti western almost. It's like it's very dramatic. It's like
that is a mishmash of genres right there.
It's like the opening line is, "The sun had never set quite like that. The city lights glistened off your back." Like it's very like rich and like visceral.
Okay.
But it's about like going on a trip to Vegas and like getting involved with someone that you like develop feelings for, and then you're on the way home, and like now I'm just watching billboards on the drive home, wondering like where we're gonna go from here. So it's like this whole motif, and then the bridge is like, I'm so proud of the bridge because it's like the second chorus is, "Now I'm just watching billboards on the drive home, just watching billboards," and then the bridge is, "Forget rich quick schemes and truck stop jewelry and really anything to get my mind off of you. They're saying we're all due selling above ground pools, but they won't tell me what to do about wanting you." So it's this like what words are saying. Like,
wow, that I can't wrap my head around that right now. That,
and as a Swiftie, like as a Taylor Swift like aficionado, like I'm like, if I could have her hear one song of mine, I would want her to hear that song specifically for the bridge. I would want her to like hear herself in that,
I rightfully so. Like that's an impactful set of lyrics right there. Wow. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I mean, cuz like I know some of your stuff and like so I kind of thought like Better Off to me was kind of like a midpoint between something
Yeah.
like Durango and like 20 something. Like it's like that nice like it's very modern, but it's not like super like acoustic folky, but it's also like it's got that like pop element to it. But now I guess I need to go listen to Billboards over and over again. um so then I think that kind of I mean potentially answers my next question of if you could like be the opening act for somebody, would it be Taylor Swift?
It would. It would be Taylor Swift or Phoebe Bridgers, or Harry Styles. Those are probably the big three. Um, Also Lucy Dacus. I don't know if you listen to Lucy Dacus, but
Hmm.
like I'm obsessed with Lucy as a lyricist. Like just enthralled with her. And I only discovered her because of Phoebe, because they're in a group together. I know Phoebe's like much more mainstream right now, but I think Lucy is like just as good of a writer, if not better. Um,
Taking a shot at Phoebe Bridgers?
Absolutely not. Uh, I just they're different. They're so I really like in music. This is the reason I love Taylor Swift so much. Is like I really like um a lyric like coming along and knocking you on your feet, but
Hmm.
you still off your feet, but you also know what it means immediately. But you're
Right.
like the way it was said is so beautiful and perfect. But it's not like totally up. It's not really up to interpretation. I like to be kind of like to know what's going on in a song. Uh,
Hmm.
I think a lot of people like to dissect and like to like look at it like a poem and like figure out what the meaning is and all of that. Um, and I like to do that sometimes too. And I think that's how Phoebe kind of operates. Is like sometimes it's like cryptic and like could mean 1,000 different things. Whereas Lucy is like very plain language, like just it's like you're reading a book. It's like description that is like so specific and amazing. Um, and I think I just write more like Lucy, but I love Phoebe.
So
Phoebe, if you ever
no
see this, I love
no
you.
shots fired.
No shots at Phoebe.
uh, that's that's too funny. So I guess what is it that you would kind of say is something that like obviously as we've both come to learn there are a ton of people doing just what we're doing and doing the
Yeah.
artist thing, writing the music, making it happen, et cetera, et cetera. What is it that you think would set you apart from other independent artists?
It's a good question because you're right. It's a saturated market, and it's like the beautiful thing about where we are now is that you can put out music from just using the internet and the microphone in your closet. Like that's what I do. And the flip side of that is a lot of people are putting out music, and a lot of people are using the exact same platforms you are to promote it, and
Hmm.
for free. And it's like it can be daunting. But I think you just have to believe in yourself and your skills and your dedication to get better and your like, you know, determination to have the new great idea every time, um in order to keep that momentum going. um and I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm completely unique as an artist. I would say there's probably like lots of male queer artists that like write like soapy like um lyrically rich pop songs. um but I do like to think that the way I see the world is interesting and like, you know, defined, and like I've decided on, I know who I am, and I've had to figure that out really intentionally for like the past several years. And so I think that shows up in my writing. I think it's like, oh, this is someone who's thought about everything. Who's just
Hmm.
thought like had so many like sleepless nights or like, pondering, society and all that. So I mean, that sounds really pretentious, but I mean, it it is. I feel like there's an element of like I always start with like how I'm feeling, but then I tend to like zoom out at least at one part of the song to say like an objective truth about the situation, or like a how I see this in a bigger scale, not just like this made me sad and I'm gonna sing about it for 3 minutes. Like um which I'm not saying that's what other artists do, but that's definitely something that I think that there's like a benefit, like, or like an advantage of my writing, or just like my inclination to come at things from surprising angles, I guess. Does that make any sense whatsoever?
No, it absolutely does. I think even like if it wasn't a direct answer, it spoke enough to kind of who you are as an artist and what it is that necessarily sets you apart. Um, what is it like? What kind of impact is it that you want your music to have? Like, what do you want people that hear your music to kind of take away from it?
That's kind of the same with all of the art that I want to make, because I wrote a book that I want to publish soon. And it kind of, with both realms, it's like finding the ways in which I am not represented
Hmm.
in music or in books or media, and making something that addresses that, so that other people who are in that situation see that other people are like that too, or like those feelings too. Like, for example, I again, I love Taylor Swift, I adore Taylor Swift, but Taylor Swift and I have had a very different uh romantic experience. Taylor Swift, like, her songs are about falling hard, being in a relationship, and getting heartbroken.
Right.
And I get it. I get being heartbroken. I don't get falling hard and being in like a whirlwind romance.
Right.
Um it's just like not something that I can like relate to. Um it's like hot people shit to me. It's like okay, great. Um
That's one way to put
so,
it, I guess.
but yeah, so in that way, I think like, you know and it's the same in media. Like anything that's about like gay men, it's usually like either raunchy, like, you know hookup culture and stuff, or it's like this really sanitized cute love story
Hmm.
in like high school or something like that. And as beautiful as that is, where the story is about the like kid who had to overcome a homophobic household and like like grapple with his sexuality for years and years and years, and then was spit into a gay community that like wanted nothing to do with him. Like, where's that story? Because that's my experience. And it's like, I think there's universal um connection within specificity. Like, I think like if you can be specific, like you're gonna reach more people, and make more of an impact than if you're like vague and overarching. So it's a balance, right? Because you don't want
Hmm.
to alienate people and be like, oh, I can't relate to this because it's so specific to his life. But you also want to give them something to latch onto and relate to. So yeah, that's my goal. Is I want people to like feel seen. I want them to be like, oh, this is like what I go through. You know, um, this is music this is music for me. So yeah.
That's awesome. Um, so I cannot believe that you just glazed over the fact that you wrote a book, but for someone that's we'll get into that in a second, but what for someone that's done the film industry thing,
Mhm.
has obviously done like creative writing, um, and then also like does the music thing, why out of like those different kind of creative worlds, is it that music is where you feel like your heart is? Like why music as your creative outlet when there's clearly other opportunities?
Well, and that's a good point. I'm not closed off to the idea of um being a writer, like a TV or screenwriter, like making money doing that. That's still really interesting to me. It's just a matter of, did I want to put in the years and the grueling effort and the note, like the terrible pay and all of that for that specific art form? And the answer was no. The answer was, if I'm going to struggle, I want to struggle to be a songwriter, not a TV writer. Like it just wasn't creatively fulfilling enough for me. And then but it's like, if I did say I did sell this book and it got traction and it became an adaptation, or like that book helped me get a staffing
Mhm.
job on a TV show, then that would be great. Like I would be very open to that. I still like really enjoy like that collaborative, like, writers room thing. It's very similar to like in my mind, it's very similar to like the workshops that I used to do in like the classes and the screenwriting classes in college. Um, and so I feel like I'm getting off track, but um, I I definitely like the book process because all that I need is a Word document in my computer and I can just write
Mhm.
and explore. And it's one of those things that was always this unachievable, far away thing. It was like I could never write a book. I was always, I mean, as much as I loved English, as much as I loved like dissecting literature, I wasn't a big reader because I was intimidated by it. I was a slow reader.
Really?
I would get confused easily by books. Like, um, I I was impatient. Like, I just didn't connect with books. I mean, I think the exception would be like I was really into a series of unfortunate events growing up. Um, and like the first couple Percy Jackson books, and then I gave up on them. And like, but I was like always too afraid to read Harry Potter because it was too big, like too many pages, and so like I've always had this like inadequacy around, I never saw myself as an author, because like how could you be an author if you
Don't
don't
read?
read? But then over the past couple of years I have, you know grown into an interest in reading. And like um I think it was reading Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney that made me realize what like is popular in books right now, and it's something that I could do. It's like this like cerebral, internal, torturous like thing where not a lot is happening externally. There's not like a lot of plot happening, but like they're kind of like in that book, the main character is just kind of like going through life, and you're like, it's not like structured in a way that's like the climax or whatever. It's just kind of like a year in the life of this person or whatever. And so that kind of like opened up my mind and helped me to just write my experience mainly. I mean, it's fictionalized, like there's things that were not true, but like anytime I got stuck, I just pulled from my experience. Um and it really surprised me that I finished it. But and I would love for it to go somewhere, but ultimately, you know, going back to your original question, music is the oldest. It's my first love. Like, it was the thing that in second grade, my mom saw me like messing around on the piano and was like, "You need to take piano lessons." Like, and I was hooked from there. Um, and so it was kind of it was less about like just rediscovering my love for music because it never left. It was more like deciding that that would be what I focus my professional energy into. Like that was the decision. Like I was gonna, like I'd been writing even when I was at the agency and I was pursuing screenwriting. I was writing way more songs than I was pilots. Like I was just like always writing songs to process things until like because it was fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe that the only reason I got to the place where I am now, where I can feel comfortable putting out music and like getting good feedback on it, people saying that it's like good music, um, is because I wrote so many songs that if I put out would not have been received well. Like they were not that good. Like I was still learning. So if I had tried to like right out of the gate, right out of college, like put out an EP, it would not have been as good as the way that it worked out, which was like me just coming at it a roundabout way after practicing a lot. So I think it all worked out the way it was supposed to. Mhm. I don't even remember the original question, but that
No, you got right to it. And I I mean, I have a similar experience where it's like music was the one thing. I tried all kinds of creative projects. I was convinced I was going to write a musical like my freshman year of college. That lasted all of 2 weeks. But like music I've been doing for years. And so like it's awesome to hear that it's like, and I really liked what you said where you were like it's not that I found the love again, it's that the love really never left. Like
Mhm.
you and everything happens within the right time, and clearly you're a perfect example of that. Like you went and did these other things, but music ultimately never left, and it's where you found yourself returning back to. Like it's really a if it's meant to be, it will be.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. I don't think I really have any more questions for you, but this has been totally awesome. I've loved having you on. I will be going and streaming billboards for the next 3 hours after this. And yeah, I mean, do you have anything exciting coming up as far as music goes? Any upcoming releases you plan? I mean, I know Better Off just came out what a week
Yep.
ago.
And that was in the works for
Um,
a while. I really wanted to put that out in like beginning of summer, like June. And it was just financially I wasn't ready to. Like I just
right.
had to pay my producer and he was like twice as expensive as the last person I had used. But it was worth it. Like you can tell. I think if you like listen compared like the way it's just so crisp and like I'm so glad that I like worked with him and like I'm excited to work with him again. But um yeah, the next song, I'm really excited for the next song, but it's gonna take a long time, I think, too.
Okay.
Just the
Well,
financially, like, working that out. And then also, um, it's a lot of back and forth. Like it's a lot of uh trying things and then being like, I'm so sorry, but I actually think we should do this instead. And then, walking that line to where you don't like, I'm like, I hope my producer doesn't hate me. And made it out where he didn't hate me. I think he was really happy with the song. But I like for Better Off, like I recorded all these vocals um on the microphone that I have, which is like a Newman one. I don't remember which. It's like I think it's one that like Billie Eilish uses or something. And my voice is nothing like Billie Eilish's. I was told to get that microphone because it was a good microphone, and I believe that it is, but it's very hollow in my voice. It doesn't like have a lot of like oomph to it. And that's what I had used on the second EP, but enough about me, which is billboards and 20 something and those songs once in a while. Um, and it's not that I thought they were bad. It's just that like I didn't think it necessarily sounded like me. I was like, there's a few moments where I'm like, it doesn't sound like me.
Mhm.
So and that was happening again with this song, and I was like, okay, it's not the producer, obviously, it's like something else. So my friend let me borrow his microphone, which is the exact same one you have, the one I'm talking into right now. And this microphone was great for my voice. Like it
Mhm.
it made all the difference in the world. So um it was but that made the process longer too. And like at one point, because I paid him in two parts, and at one point I was like, I'm not done yet. I want to work on it a little more, but I'm gonna pay you the rest. Like I'm just gonna like pretend like we're done, but I would love to like work on this a little bit more. And he was like, that's fine. But I was like, I just want you to get paid. Like I don't want you sitting around waiting on like your money. And anyway, so I'm hoping to work with him again on the next one. The next song is sexy. It's like
Little
about-
change of pace.
it's about having sex in a car, essentially. Like driving down the road, like in the middle of the desert, and you're just like with the person that you're obsessed with, and you're like, just pull the car over. Like it's that. It's very different. I've never written anything like that.
Oh
but,
yeah, it's a 180 from Better Off.
yeah. And then eventually I'm hoping to have an EP with Better Off and second single, and then a couple of others that I love. But I'm not, luckily I'm like not, there's no pressure yet. Like it's just kind of like whenever I put music out, I put music out. Like there's no one really like checking for me yet.
Right.
Well, like when is the next one coming? You know. So
Not yet, but
Better Off kind of getting a little having like noticeably more eyes on it than the last couple has put out music, which is really nice.
yeah, I mean, it can only go forward, you know.
Yeah,
It's all growth is all in good time.
and it's also interesting. Like I think I've graduated from. I've always had like overwhelmingly positive like feedback from the people in my life about my music, but I've graduated from like, oh, this is so cool that you're doing this, and like you did this all by yourself. That's crazy. Like, wow. To this song is so good. Like this song is like really, really good. Like there's a difference, and I like feel it. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, like you were impressed that like this was like an early project for me, but like you wouldn't stream this normally. Like probably. But this other song that I just put out, you love. Like you're gonna like listen to over and over. Like that's the difference.
Mhm.
It just so happens to be that I'm your friend. And I
Hey,
love that feeling.
one day they're gonna get to say that they knew you when you were just starting out. Uh, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's all in good time. I can't wait to hear this 180 song from Better Off. But yeah, I mean, it's been great chatting about all your different adventures, from working in the film industry to writing a book outside of music. I don't know how you do it all, but you somehow manage to. But yeah, I mean, thanks for taking the time to talk music with me, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I mean, this whole like idea of like, I don't know, promoting myself or like talking about my music is kind of new. Like the first couple of times, all I did was just kind of like post to my socials. I didn't really talk to anybody about the process. So this is like a growing experience for me. And I think like it's really exciting. It's like really cool to just like very like casually talk about my music, like have a like space to do that. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that concludes episode 2 of the Why Music podcast. We will be back next Tuesday with links.